Hi, welcome to Tuesday Talks. Thank you for joining me. My name is Michelle Jewsbury. If this is your first time tuning in, the reason for these conversations every week is because I really want people to know and understand how prevalent domestic violence is in our society here in the United States and worldwide. I was involved in a domestic violence relationship with a man that I'm going to call Paul, and I was with him for 3 years, both physical and emotional abuse, and then a year after that with psychological and financial abuse. I endured much pain. I fought often with God. I yelled at him. I was very confused, delirious, didn't understand what was happening to me, and I almost didn't take responsibility for allowing myself to stay in an abusive relationship, thinking that he was going to change, thinking that I could help fix him on some level. The topic of conversation today is, why is this evil happening in the world? This topic was provoked because I went to church. I go to Bel Air Church up by the 405. And the topic that Pastor Drew spoke about 2 weeks ago was, why is there evil in this world? And it really sparked my interest because oftentimes victims blame their abuser. They resent their abuser. They oftentimes do not ever forgive their abuser, therefore holding this resentment and anger within themselves and hurting themselves in the long run. So why does this injustice continue happening in our society? Is it God's fault? Is it our fault? Is it some unforeseen being's fault? So this is my perspective on why this injustice continues to happen. When I was in my relationship, it was extremely emotional. It was very painful. I loved him very much, and I could not believe that he would assault me over and over again. There were 2 incidents that happened, events I like to call them, that he beat me for 3 or 4 hours straight. And I am currently editing my memoir right now, making the final edits, and it's called But I Love Him. And going through the abuse and going through what happened made me really resent him inside. And it hurt so bad to go through those events over and over and over again. 2 years ago, I wrote a play, a year and a half ago now, that was in the Hollywood Fringe Festival with the same title, But I Love Him. And I had to play my abuser and myself. And I would beat myself up over and over on stage, throw myself against a wall, throw myself on the floor, strangle myself so I could show the audience really what it looks like to be abused by the person that you love the most. And while I was involved in that relationship, I would go on hikes to talk to God. And when I say I screamed at God, I am not exaggerating at all. I would yell at him and curse at him. And I was angry, so angry with God for allowing this to happen, for allowing Paul to hurt me, the man that I loved. And I would fight with God about, why won't he change? Why can't I help fix him? Etc., etc., etc. What's interesting about this topic, why does this injustice still happen, is it's not God's fault that this happens. Human beings are born with free will, freedom to choose what is right, what is wrong, what is good versus what is evil. And now coming out of that relationship, I am not resentful towards God. And I actually forgive Paul for what he's done to me, because I don't blame him for how he is. He was brought up in in a situation that caused him to react the way he did, caused him to hurt the people that he loved. Was that God's fault he was brought up in that situation? No, I don't think so. Was it his parents' fault? Well, his parents were probably brought up in similar situations. And if you go back through the beginning of time, it goes all the way back to Adam and Eve, where they lived in harmony with God. And then Adam and Eve ate the apple, ate from the tree of knowledge. And that perpetuated this destruction of humankind. It perpetuated evil and abuse and manipulation and rapes and horrible things and injustices that happen around the world, including hunger and poverty. And God didn't create us to live like this. So why do these injustices happen? I truly believe that it is education that makes domestic violence continue. A lot of people don't really understand that here in the United States, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 11 men are abused. If you look at the population of women, that's 25% of the women in the United States have been abused or are going to be abused or are currently involved in an abusive relationship. And those numbers need to stop. But in order for those numbers to stop, people need to speak up. So I'm currently starting a nonprofit called Unsilenced Voices. And the entire purpose of this nonprofit is to encourage survivors, to encourage victims to speak up about what's happening to them, to speak out against the violence, to educate the general population about how horrible this epidemic is and how prevalent it is in our society. So education is the primary reason why I think that this continues amongst people who have had destruction happen in their lives, and these abusers don't deal with what happens underneath. These abusers don't go to therapy, they don't go to counseling, they don't seek the help that they desperately need in order to stop their destructive behavior. So the 3 things that I want to leave you with today are the reason why abuse happens. It's not God's fault. We make that choice. The abuser consciously makes that choice to hurt the people in their lives. And that it's not your fault, it's not the victim's fault, and it's not the survivor's fault. And education is the only thing that's going to stop this, and to speak up. So if you're currently a survivor and you're keeping all of this held inside of you, I encourage you to speak, to go talk to somebody. I don't care if it's your therapist or your best friend or just some random person that you trust, but just make sure to get it out, because if you get it out, that creates healing. Then you can forgive your abuser, and then you can speak publicly about what's happened to you, so you can educate the general population, so the general population can keep their eyes open and be aware of what's happening. So thank you very much for joining me on Tuesday Talks. Please join me next week. Have a good day.